Congratulations on your purchase of the Videonics AB1 Edit Suite. This videotape was designed to get you started with the necessary connections and basic operation of the Edit Suite. The Videonics AB1 Edit Suite is an edit controller that can be used to automatically direct all of your VCRs and camcorders to perform easy and accurate video editing functions. You may plug into the Edit Suite any combination of VCRs or video camcorders using Control-L, Control-M, RS-232, or RS-422 editing protocols. Once connected, you may perform assemble editing, video insert editing, or audio insert editing. The Edit Suite will control a recording VCR and one playback VCR or camcorder for single source editing. And when connected to the Videonics MX1 digital video mixer, the Edit Suite will allow you to perform ABCD roll editing with up to 4 playback VCRs or camcorders. You may perform one edit at a time, or perform a sequence of edits from the memorized edit decision list that you can create within the Edit Suite. So let's take a few minutes to connect your new Edit Suite into your video system. As you do so, it is a good idea to keep your Edit Suite owner's manual close at hand for additional reference. To get started, here's what you'll need. At least one VCR or camcorder to play back your source footage, another VCR to record your work, a video monitor to display your progress, the necessary video and audio cables to make the connections, the Edit Controller interface cables for connecting your VCRs and or camcorders to the Edit Suite, and of course the Edit Suite itself. Begin by placing your Edit Suite on your editing workstation in the proximity of your other video equipment. Connect the included power supply to the back of the Edit Suite and plug it into a nearby outlet. Attach a video cable to the video output of the VCR or camcorder that you will be using as your source player. Connect the other end of this video cable to the video input on your recorder VCR. Connect the audio outputs on your source VCR or camcorder to the audio inputs on your record VCR. If you already have your source player VCR or camcorder and record VCR connected to a digital video mixer, you may leave this connection in place. Now connect the RF antenna output or the video and audio outputs from your record VCR to a television set or video monitor so that you can view what is going on to or being played back from the record VCR. This will be called your output monitor. After determining which type of edit control protocols your source player or camcorder uses, make a connection between it and the jack labeled A on the rear of the Edit Suite with the supplied Control-L or Control-M interface cables. If you are using VCRs with serial connections, RS-232 and RS-422 interface cables are available from Videonics. Determine which editing protocol your record VCR uses and make a connection between it and the jack labeled REC on the rear of the Edit Suite. Now you can turn on your video editing system, beginning with the power to your video source player, followed by your recording VCR and its monitor, and then the power button on the Edit Suite. After the Edit Suite is turned on, the LCD display window will show this type of display if the Edit Suite is not in the demo mode and you are using the Edit Suite for the very first time. Otherwise, a display like this may appear if events have been previously programmed into the Edit Suite's edit decision list. Before you can begin editing, you must first tell the AB1 Edit Suite what type of VCRs or camcorders that it will be controlling. This is done in the VCR configuration mode, which is accessed by pressing the Setup key in the keypad section. You will see this display with a cursor below the word LCD. Use the right arrow key to move the cursor below the word Config, and then press OK. A new menu will show the cursor below VCRA. Press OK again, and you will see Protocol equals followed by one of these abbreviations, which refer to the type of edit control jack that your connected VCR or camcorder has for its edit controller connection. Check your source player VCR or camcorder to determine what type of edit controller connection it requires. This information will be listed in your VCR or camcorder's owner's manual and in many cases on the source player itself. If your source player VCR or camcorder requires a Control-L or LAN-C connection, which are fairly common on Sony and other Hi8 products, then press the change key to scroll through the different protocols until LAN-C is displayed. If your source player requires a Control-M connection, which is the popular editing protocol for industrial-level Panasonic VCRs such as the AG1900 series, then use the change key to display PANA. Now use the down arrow key to move the cursor down to the VCR type and check Appendix A in the Edit Suite Owner's Manual to see which category of VCR or camcorder your source player falls into. In most cases, 001 will be the selected choice. If you need to change the existing value, press the change key and a flashing cursor will appear over the first number. Use the numbers on the numeric keypad to type in the desired value. By the way, anytime the cursor line sits below a single word, pressing the OK key will call up further choices for that particular item. If a word or number follows an equal sign, then the change key is used to change its respective value. Also, if a small arrow appears on the right side of the display window, then additional menus can be found by pressing the respective up or down arrow keys. Since there is a down arrow key on the right side of this screen, we will press the down arrow key to proceed to the next menu, which is the setup menu for any timecode settings that your source player will require. Even if your source player does not have or use timecode, you will still have to tell the Edit Suite that by using the change key to call up Internal, and then move the cursor over to the right and use the change key to call up None. If your source player does have timecode capabilities, then use the change key to select between RCTC, VITC, or LTC. Once again, your source player's owner's manual will tell you if your particular VCR or camcorder is timecode capable. Now that these parameters have been set for your source player VCR or camcorder, press the setup key once. This will memorize the settings for your particular source player and the Edit Suite will return to the configuration menu. After you have returned to the configuration menu, move the cursor down to VCR R and then press OK. At this point, you will be setting up all of the parameters for your recording VCR just like you did with the source player VCR. Select the editing protocol, the VCR numeric type, and the timecode settings. Other values within the configuration menu can be set at another time. After setting up your recording VCR, press the setup key twice and you will return to the original setup menu. Press setup once again to return to the edit decision list. The Edit Suite is now configured for your connected VCRs or camcorders. At this time, if you have not done so already, place a pre-recorded source video footage tape in your source player VCR or camcorder and place a blank videotape in your recording VCR. To verify that you have properly configured the Edit Suite to your connected VCRs or camcorders, press the A key and then press the play key in the transport control section. If everything is configured and connected properly, you should see your source player VCR or camcorder playing back your source video footage. And the other controls such as fast forward, rewind, pause, and stop should also work properly. If they do, then try using the jog shuttle control to transport your videotape. The outside shuttle ring will place the videotape in either the play mode or the fast forward and rewind mode. And in some cases, reverse play can be accessed if your particular VCR or camcorder is capable of it. Placing the shuttle ring in the 12 o'clock position will pause the videotape. The inside jog dial is used to advance your videotape one video frame at a time to find a specific location by rotating it clockwise. And once again, if your VCR or camcorder has the capability, you may back up the videotape one frame at a time by turning the jog dial counterclockwise. Now that you have verified the control configuration of the Edit Suite with your source player, press the All-Stop key and then press the Go To and the 0 keys at the same time. What this will do is rewind your source tape back to its beginning and reset the time counter to 0 if you are using edit protocols other than RS-422 or RS-232. This will provide the Edit Suite with a consistent numerical location of your source player tape throughout the editing process. After the source player has re-zeroed itself, press the R key and use the same previous procedure for testing the tape transport functions of your recording VCR. Once confirmed, press the All-Stop key and then re-zero the recording VCR by simultaneously pressing the Go To and Zero keys. After the recording VCR reaches the beginning of its tape and re-zeros itself, you are ready to begin editing. Press the A key on the Edit Suite to activate the control of your source player VCR or camcorder, and turn the outside ring on the jog shuttle control to the single arrow position. This will place your source player VCR in the play mode. Use the shuttle ring to advance the source player to a particular location that you wish to use for your very first scene, and use the jog dial to fine-tune the exact starting point. Once there, press the N key. This will register a starting point for your source player in the Edit Suite's memory, which is also known as the Edit Decision List. You will see your source player's numerical location displayed in the LCD window after the word In. Now press the Play key or turn the shuttle dial to the single arrow and let your first scene play through until you have reached a point where you wish the scene to end. Then press the Out key to register an edit ending point. This is all you need to do to set up a single event edit. To preview your edit, press Preview. To actually perform the edit, press the Shift and Auto Record keys at the same time. On some VCRs, it may be necessary to first place the Record VCR in the Record Pause mode. The Edit Suite will automatically go find the beginning of your source player's scene, back up that tape 5 seconds before the scene begins, and then start playing the source footage for 5 seconds before the actual edit takes place. You will see a recording VCR automatically go into the record mode when your source plays a scene that was recorded upon it. Let's set up another edit sequence. This time press the Shift key and the A key at the same time. This will create a new display window or tile for the second edit. Once again, use the shuttle ring to find a new scene from your source player's footage. Pause the source player at the beginning of the scene and press the N key to register the edit start point. Let that scene play through until it ends. Pause the source player and press the Out key. Since we now have a total of 2 edit events programmed into the Edit Suite, we will use the arrow key to take us back to the first event in the Edit Decision List because that is where we want our multiple event edit sequence to begin. Remember that wherever the Record VCR is left just before you perform an edit, that is where the next scene is going to be placed. Now we can press the Shift key and the Auto Record key at the same time to perform this series of programmed edits. The Edit Suite will send the source player looking for the first scene, perform the 5-second pre-roll, and then automatically record that scene onto the recording VCR. When finished, the Edit Suite will have the source player go find the next successive edit event, perform the pre-roll, and once again record that scene onto the record VCR. And it will automatically continue to do this until the Edit Decision List reaches its end. You have just seen what the Videonics AB1 Edit Suite can do with a simple single event cut edit and a slightly more complex multiple event edit. Coming up on this video, you will learn more advanced operating procedures of the Edit Suite, as well as a detailed look at each and every function the Edit Suite has to offer, including AXA roll edits, AB roll edits, ABCD roll edits, timecode operations, GPI functions, edit decision list management, and much more. The operating panel of the Videonics AB1 Edit Suite is laid out in a logical manner that allows you to perform editing tasks with the least amount of effort. The LCD display window at the top of the unit will provide all of the necessary information to keep track of what each VCR is doing, as well as permitting you to view all of the editing parameters that you have programmed into the Edit Suite. The keypad provides not only numeric values when needed, but also delivers various functions such as edit decision list editing, configuration changing, and the up-down and left-right arrow keys. The power key sits ahead of your VCR selector switches, which when pressed, activates the respective VCR connected to the rear of the Edit Suite. Whichever key is pressed receives the commands sent from other controls such as the jog shuttle dial, the tape transport keys, and the in and out point assignment keys. A through D call up your source player VCRs or camcorders. Color calls up the background colors on the Videonics MX1 digital video mixer if connected, and R activates your recording VCR. The auto record key is used to initiate any edits that have been programmed into the Edit Suite, which can be either an automatic execution of the edit decision list when pressed along with the shift key, or when pressed by itself, the auto record key activates the record function of your record VCR. If your record VCR does not have an interface jack such as Control-L, Control-M, RS-232, or RS-422, you may use its infrared remote control capability by placing the supplied infrared wand in front of the VCR's infrared window and connecting it to the IR jack on the rear of the Edit Suite while the Edit Suite's power supply is disconnected. Like other connected VCRs or camcorders, you must enter the Setup menu and select VCR R. Under Protocol, change your record VCR to IR and refer to the IR table in Appendix A in your Edit Suite's owner's manual to determine which three-digit number corresponds to the VCR that you will be using. Place the cursor under VCR equals and change the value to that respective number. Now move the cursor to Command equals and change the value to pause. Press the setup key twice to exit the setup mode. With a videotape in your record VCR, place it in the record mode and then press the pause key on the Edit Suite. If everything is configured correctly, your record VCR will go from record to record pause. Now the Edit Suite will be able to command your record VCR to enter and exit the record mode as you perform your edits. A Videonics MX1 digital video mixer may be connected to the Edit Suite so that automated control of transitions will occur when performing AB roll or AXA roll edits. Use the supplied interface cable to connect the GPI-M jack on the Edit Suite to the Control GPI jack on the rear of the MX1 digital mixer. In the configuration mode, select GPI-M and press the change key until GPI-M equals MX1 is displayed. Press the setup key twice to return to the Edit Decision List menu. This will permit two-way communications between the two units so that automatic source selection and effect triggering can take place. If you are using a digital video mixer other than an MX1, follow the same procedure for setup, however this time select Mixer as the choice for non-Videonics digital mixers. A character generator such as the Videonics Title Maker can be connected to your editing system and be automatically activated by the Edit Suite by making a connection with the supplied interface cable between the GPI-T jack on the Edit Suite and the Control GPI jack on the Title Maker. Ideally, the Title Maker's video connection should be downstream from all of your other video processing devices. In other words, the video signals from your source VCRs or camcorders may pass through a digital mixer, a color corrector if you have one, and finally through the Title Maker before it is sent on to the recording VCR. When a GPI-T event is placed within the Edit Decision List, a command will be sent to the title maker to activate its play function, therefore bringing up the title page that has been created on the title maker. If you have two source player VCRs or camcorders, a record VCR, and a digital video mixer, you may perform what is called an A-B roll, where one scene transitions into another by way of a special effect such as a wipe or a dissolve. To have the Edit Suite perform an A-B roll edit, it must also be configured to your second source player VCR or camcorder. This is also performed in the setup menu. However, this time connect your second source player VCR to the B VCR control jack on the rear of the Edit Suite and do your setup assignments to VCR B in the same manner that you set up VCR A. Since we are starting a new type of edit session, let's clear the edit decision list of our previous edits. That is done by pressing the setup key once, then press the down arrow key until the cursor sits below the word EDL. Press the OK key once, and then press it again when you see this display. This will erase everything that was previously memorized into the edit decision list. Pressing the setup key will return you to this display, which is the starting point for an edit suite with an empty edit decision list. Press the A key to activate your A source player and find the first scene that you wish to use. Give it an in and out point as you did before. This will register the first event in our A-B roll edit. Now press the new key, place the cursor under MX1, and then press OK. This makes our second event an MX1 event, where we can select our transition number, the effect direction, the transition speed, and background or border color if we are using them. We'll select this effect, which is a dissolve. If you are using a non-Videonics digital video mixer, you will have to manually set up the desired effect and transition speed on the mixer itself. Our third event will be the scene playing back from our second or B source player. Press the Shift key and the B key at the same time. Find a scene on this VCR or camcorder that you wish to follow the first scene, and give it an in and out point. We will use the arrow key to once again return us to the top of the edit decision list, and then press Shift and Auto Record simultaneously to execute the A-B roll edit sequence. The Edit Suite will find and play the scene from the A source player. Toward the end of that scene, a dissolve will automatically take place and transition into the scene that we selected from the B source player. AXA roll editing is much like A-B roll editing, where one scene transitions to another by way of an effect transition. However, in AXA roll editing, only one source VCR is used to play back the footage, and the last video frame of the first scene is digitally frozen, and a transition takes place from the frozen picture into a live picture from elsewhere on the source videotape. Like the A-B roll edit, set the in and out points for your source VCR or camcorder, and follow that in the edit decision list with a mixer event, which is added to the edit decision list by pressing the new key and placing the cursor under MX1. Now press the OK key, and the mixer event will be added to the edit decision list as a new event. Press Shift and the A buttons at the same time to add another event, this being the second scene to follow the first by way of an effect transition. Once again, set the in and out points for your source VCR or camcorder. Let's continue on to add another mixer event followed by one more video scene so that we have a total of 3 different scenes from the same videotape that are connected by means of a digital mixer transition. After taking the edit decision list up to the very first event, press the Shift and Auto Record buttons at the same time to initiate this series of AXA roll edits. The first scene plays and the last video frame in that scene is automatically frozen by the MX1 digital video mixer as the recording VCR pauses itself, waiting for the Edit Suite to go find the second scene. When that scene is found, the recording VCR resumes recording as the Edit Suite sends a command to the MX1 to perform a transition from the previously frozen picture into the new real-time picture. Once that scene has been recorded, the last video frame is again frozen. The recording VCR pauses, and the third scene is automatically located by the Edit Suite. Again, the frozen picture to live action video transition takes place. All of them can be used when creating your edit decision list. All of these events can be selected from the New menu, which is accessed by pressing the New or numeric 1 key. Another way of calling up the New menu is to press the Shift and New keys at the same time, so that the new event will be placed before the currently displayed event. Scene events contain information pertaining to the source VCRs or camcorders that will be supplying the raw video footage. Each scene event will contain the in and out points for each selected source VCR or camcorder. There are 3 ways to create a scene event. You may display the New menu, select A, B, C, or D, and then press the OK key. You may press the Shift key along with A, B, C, or D, or you may select the desired source and press the Shift key along with either the in or out key. When the scene event is displayed, you may use the transport keys to find a specific starting or ending point for the scene that you wish to use, and then press either the in or out key. Or you may move the cursor to the respective in or out field and press the change key. This will allow you to enter a tape location value with the numeric keypad. This procedure can also be handy if you wish to add or remove time from the duration of an already registered scene event. Source events allow devices without tape transport control, such as digital video mixers or live cameras, to be used as a selected video source. For instance, if you have a MX1 digital mixer, you can access its background colors with a source event. After entering a duration for the source event, select a background color. If you follow this source event with a scene event and combine it with an MX1 event, a transition will take place from the background color to a video picture. You may create a source event much the same way as you created a scene event via the New menu, pressing Shift plus A, B, C, or D, or pressing the Shift key along with the color key. GPI events send triggering commands to character generators and other general-purpose interface controllable devices. If you have a Videonics title maker connected to the Edit Suite, you can create a GPI event that will act as a modifier for the current scene or source event that is displayed. There are 3 types of GPI events: fixed, relative in, and relative out. The fixed GPI event triggers your title maker at a specific point in time within the scene or source event that it is modifying. For example, this particular GPI event occurs at this tape location within the scene or source event that it is modifying. The relative in GPI event sends a trigger command time-wise that is relative to the start point of its modified scene or source event. In other words, this relative in GPI event begins exactly 5 seconds after the beginning of the scene or source event starting point. And the relative out GPI event sends a trigger command relative to the ending point of its modified scene or source event. GPI events can be created from the New menu or by pressing the GPI T key. MX1 events send commands to a connected MX1 digital mixer so that automated effects and transitions can occur with AB roll and AXA roll edits. MX1 events are generally placed between 2 scene or source events so that they can both be tied together through a special effect. Create your MX1 event from the New menu or by pressing the GPI M key. Place the cursor under FX equals and change the value to 000 to 239, which correspond to the MX1's 240 transitions. Place the cursor under DI, which is the transition direction of the MX1, and change the direction of the transition if you wish. The SP field is for changing the speed of the transition, and the BG and BC fields are for designating the MX1's background and border colors. Now the MX1 will automatically respond to the commands sent to it from the Edit Suite. Mixer events allow non-Videonics digital mixers to be triggered by the Edit Suite when performing AB roll edits. Although similar to the functions of an MX1 event, the mixer events will only send trigger commands to a digital mixer. You must manually set the transition type, direction, and speed of your digital mixer. After you have set up these parameters, enter a transition duration in the mixer event field so that the Edit Suite will know when to begin playing the second scene or source event relative to the first one. Mixer events can be created from the new menu or by pressing the GPI M key. Insert events replace existing audio or video in the middle of a previously recorded segment on the recorder VCR. These events will only work on record VCRs that have audio and or video insert capability. First, you must create a scene event that will act as a source replacing the existing audio or video on your record VCR. Then create an insert event from either the new menu, pressing the Insert key, or pressing the R key along with In or Out. The insert event will show the tape location of the record VCR, since that is where you want the insert to begin and end. Find the beginning of the location where you want the insert to take place and press the In key. Then find the end of the location where you want the insert to stop and press the Out key. You can select between insert audio only, video only, or a combination of both by placing the cursor under the Insert Type field and pressing the Change key. Split insert events permit the audio to precede the video or vice versa in a combination audio-video insert. Once again, this feature will only work with record VCRs that have split audio and video insert capability. If you wish to have a combination audio and video insert where the audio begins first and the video follows it later, create an audio and video insert event and follow it immediately with a split insert event, which is created from the new menu or by pressing the Shift and Split keys at the same time. Since we want our video to begin later than the audio, we place the cursor under the Delay Type field and change the value to Video Delay. Now we will move the cursor down to the field where we can enter the numeric keypad the amount of delay that we want to have between the time the audio insert and the video insert begins. Stop events place a separation between one group of edits and another. Stop events are placed in the edit decision list so that one entire production's events can be isolated from another's. Or stop events can be placed within one video production so that video source tape changes can take place. To create a stop event, display the new menu, select Stop, and then press OK. All of the previously mentioned events can be moved, copied, deleted, or renumbered within the edit decision list. To get from one event to another, you must use the arrow keys to move up or down one event at a time. However, if you wish to quickly jump from a current event to the very top or very bottom of the edit decision list, press the Go To key along with either the up arrow or down arrow. Your Edit Suite instruction manual will show you a number of other shortcuts for quickly getting around the edit decision list. If you would like to rearrange your edit decision list, you can move all of your already registered scenes or events by displaying the desired event and then pressing the Cut key. Now display the location in the edit decision list where you wish to place the event that you are moving and press the Paste key. If you wish to copy an event to another location and still keep the original event where it is, select that event, press the Copy key,
and then proceed to the location in the Edit Decision list where you wish to copy it. When there, press the Paste key. To move or copy a group of events, simply display any event within that particular group and press the Shift and Cut keys or the Shift and Copy keys at the same time. Now go to the specific location within another group where you wish to place the cut or copied group and press the Paste key. You may delete a specific event by pressing the Delete key and the New keys at the same time. This will literally empty the event so that a new one can be created in its place. Or you may merely select an event and press the Delete and Cut keys simultaneously, which will remove the event altogether. An entire group of events may be deleted by pressing the Shift key along with the Delete and Cut keys. After you have copied, moved, or deleted events, you will probably notice that some of the event numbers are now out of order. If you wish to renumber the events so that they are in sequential order, press the Go To, Shift, and Change keys all at the same time. If your connected VCRs or camcorders have timecode capability, which will substantially improve the editing accuracy of the Edit Suite, it will be necessary to configure the Edit Suite so that it will read the timecode values of the respective source and recording units. First, you must determine what type of timecode your VCRs or camcorders use. This information will be available to you in your VCR or camcorder's owner's manual. If the timecode information is sent and received via the control interface cables, then no additional connections to the Edit Suite will be necessary. However, if the timecode is sent along separate cables coming from or going to your VCRs, then composite video cables are used to make the connections between the Edit Suite and the VCR's timecode jacks. You must also enter the setup mode to tell the Edit Suite what type of timecode is being utilized. This is done on a VCR by VCR basis, and internal is selected if the timecode is sent through the control interface cables, and external is selected if the separate timecode jacks on the Edit Suite and VCR are used. Also change the timecode type to suit the appropriate timecode protocol. Now the Edit Suite will take advantage of timecode operations, making the actual editing more accurate and the edit decision list consistently precise. If for some reason you find that either your source player VCR or camcorder or your record VCR starts or stops too early or too late while performing pre-programmed edits, you may adjust their relative in and out times. Using the offset calibration section at the very end of this videotape, create an edit decision list consisting of 3 scenes, each with a group of different displayed calibration numbers, such as Scene 1 being exactly 10 seconds through 20 seconds, Scene 2 being exactly 30 seconds through 40 seconds, and Scene 3 being exactly 40 seconds through 50 seconds. If you will be performing edits without an MX1 digital mixer, you will only need to adjust your source player VCR or camcorder's out offset value. If you are using an MX1 for AB roll edits, refer to your Edit Suite's instruction manual for adjusting the source player VCR or camcorder's in offset. To calibrate your source player VCR or camcorder's outpoint offset, go to the second scene event in the Edit Decision list and simultaneously press the Go To and In keys, and the Edit Suite will search for the endpoint for that particular event. When the source player VCR or camcorder pauses, press the OK key and determine the Edit Suite's accuracy in finding the exact beginning of that scene. If the source player VCR or camcorder paused before the registered endpoint, the out offset or pause command is too large. If the source player VCR or camcorder paused after the registered endpoint, then the out offset is too small. Make note of how many video frames, either before or after the desired endpoint, that the source player VCR or camcorder paused, and multiply that figure by 8, since the offset adjustment can be made in increments of 1/8 of a frame. Write the product of that multiplication on a piece of paper. For that particular source player VCR or camcorder, Go to its Out Offset screen in the Configuration menu and add or delete the number that you wrote down using the Change function and the Keypad section. Remember, if your source player paused before your registered endpoint, then deduct the amount that you figured to the existing Out Offset value. If your source player paused after the registered endpoint, then add your figured amount to the existing value. Press the Setup key to save your changes, and repeat this entire process for all of your connected source player VCRs or camcorders. To adjust the Record VCR's offset, perform an auto-record edit of your 3 scenes in the Edit Decision list, and play back your results on your Record VCR, noticing in particular the start and ending points of your second scene. Looking at the beginning of the recorded second scene, if the scene began before the registered endpoint, then you will need to deduct the amount in eighths of a frame from the Record VCR's in offset. If the scene began too late, then you must add the amount in eighths of a frame to the Record VCR's in offset. Now check the end of the second scene that has been recorded onto your Record VCR. If it ended earlier than you wanted it to, then deduct the amount of difference from the Record VCR's out offset. If the scene ended too late, then add the difference to the Record VCR's existing out offset. Now that we have learned all of the basics for operating the Videonics Edit Suite, let's put together a production consisting of the different procedures and types of events mentioned in this videotape. For demonstration purposes, we will use a Panasonic AG1980 Super VHS editing VCR with Control-M editing protocol for our Record VCR, a Sony ECV100 Hi8 VCR with Control-L editing protocol as our Source A player VCR, and a Panasonic AG1970 Super VHS VCR with Control-M editing protocol as our Source B player VCR. A Videonics MX1 digital video mixer will perform our special effects and transitions, and a Videonics TM2000 title maker will handle our character generation duties. A pair of video monitors will be used as our output monitor for the Record VCR, and our preview monitor for the MX1 digital mixer's preview screen. We will begin by verifying the configuration of all of our connected equipment, beginning with the Source VCRs, the Record VCR, and the GPI setting for the MX1. Next, we will load our Source videotapes into the Source VCRs and re-zero them by pressing the Go To and Zero keys. We will place a blank videotape into the Record VCR and re-zero it as well. To give the Record VCR tape some leader, we will call up the background color of black on the MX1 mixer, and then place the Record VCR in the record mode. After about 45 seconds, we will stop the Record VCR and leave it in that location. We will begin our production with a fade up from black by creating a source event with a color of 0, which is black, and a duration of 8 seconds. We will follow the source event with an MX1 event so that a transition can take place from the color black to our very first video scene. The FX number for a fade up is 001, and we will give it a transition speed of 4. Now we can press the Shift and A keys to select our Source A player and use the transport controls on the Edit Suite to locate the beginning of our very first scene. Once we find it, we will press the N key and let the scene play through until its end. Then we will press the Out key to complete the creation of our first scene event. Pressing the Shift and A keys again, we will create a second scene event and register its in and out points. Since our production needs a title, we will put one over the second scene by creating a GPI event which will modify the second scene event. We will give the GPI event a relative in starting point of 5 seconds and a relative out ending point of 5 seconds. And of course, we will create a title on the title maker that will come on the screen when it is triggered by the GPI event. Once again, a third scene event is created and the appropriate in and out points are entered. This time, however, since our third scene is from our source B player VCR, we will place an MX1 event between our second and third scenes so that an AB row edit will take place with this particular transition at this speed and direction. Now we will create a fourth scene event from our source B player VCR and follow it with another MX1 event to perform an AB row edit back to our source A player VCR, which will play our fifth scene event with its respective in and out points registered. The scene that we want to use for our sixth scene event is also on the source A videotape. However, it would be nice to have a special effect transition tying it to the fifth scene. This is done by placing an MX1 event between the fifth and sixth scene events and selecting this transition, speed, and direction. When the edit is performed, we will have an AXA row edit. Now we can add one more scene event for our final scene with its in and out points. Following that last scene, we will want to fade out to black with a closing title. This is accomplished by placing an MX1 event after the last scene with its respective transition number, speed, and direction. And since we are fading to black, we will need to create a source event that has a duration of about 15 seconds and the color of black. Our closing title will be triggered by a GPI event that will be modifying the last source event. We will give it a relative in point of 4 seconds and a relative out point of 4 seconds. And of course, we will need to create a closing title on our title maker that will be used to conclude our production. Now we can either preview our entire production, or we can actually perform the entire series of edits within our edit decision list. Let's watch as the Edit Suite puts our story together.